4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the Steve Malzberg Show. So much going on, a Senate hearing on the border crisis. Also, we have the war in the Middle East. I call it a war. It may not be declared as such, but when rockets are falling into one country and that country is defending itself by firing back at a breakneck pace, I call that a war. We also have news on our brave Marine being held in Mexico. Unfortunately, well, he had a court date yesterday. The unfortunate part of it is he's still being held in a Mexican jail. He was ordered held, and it is just outrageous to me. The president, while he should have went down to the border to address this crisis, while he was down on the border, he also should have used that time on the border to demand the release of Sergeant Tamarisi. Unfortunately, that release does not appear to be forthcoming, and the judge ordered him to remain held. They could have let him out of jail. They could have put him under some kind of house arrest. Joining us now, though, is Ron Johnson. I want the senator and everybody to hear, though, what John Boehner had to say earlier today. Let's watch.
Do you think you have to approve this funding?
Listen, this is a problem of the president's own making. He's been president for 5.5 years. When's he going to take responsibility for something?
All right. We welcome in Senator Ron Johnson. And Senator, welcome back, sir.
Well, Steve, how you doing?
I'm fine. So you heard what John Boehner had to say. I know there was a Senate hearing today on the situation down on the border. What is the latest in your view, and is the president going to get the almost $4 billion now that he's asking for?
Well, what I've been trying to do, and we had a hearing in Homeland Security Committee yesterday, I've been trying to put the funding request into perspective. What the president is looking for is $3,700 million to basically, attract more people here. And that's always been my problem is the way you secure the border is you reduce or eliminate the incentives for illegal crossing. When we basically bring people in here, or when people come in here illegally and then we let them stay indefinitely, that's an incentive for them to come. When the Senate passes a comprehensive immigration reform bill, it has $262 billion of welfare benefits for non-U.S. citizens. That's an incentive for people to come. So what we need to do is we need to stop incentivizing people to come. And the point I made in the hearing yesterday is, in a very humane and safe manner, if we would just take those people, put them in a hotel room, let them clean themselves up, feed them, and then put them on a plane and return them to their country of origin, the place they were just a few weeks earlier, that would send the strongest possible signal to accomplish the goal that we really need to accomplish, which is to stop the flow, basically eliminate the incentive for these parents. Think about it, Steve. Parents are taking the risk with their children to put them on this dangerous journey where they have been murdered and raped, because there's an incentive. If they get to the promised land here, they're home free. So we've got to stop creating that incentive. I think that's the most humane thing to do for the children that are still there, so that their parents don't put them on that train and risk their lives. And
I heard one report, one of your colleagues, I believe, did the math and figured out that it's 99% cheaper to do just what you said. As a matter of fact, you could fly them first class.
Yeah, well, I'm the accountant. I actually did that.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine. There's actually fares as low as $207 for a one-way ticket. Now, that's a couple stops. There's a nonstop for about $450 from Dallas-Fort Worth into those countries.
Which beats $60,000, huh?
Yeah, so let's say in total, with hotel and food and that type of thing, maybe new clothes, it costs $1,000 per child. That's $57 million versus the $3,700 million. Okay? I mean, in the president's request, he has $119 million for transportation, busing around the U.S. We just showed you that for $57 million, you can fly him back, put him up at a hotel, pay for probably food and some clothing. So again, I'm just trying to reorient Americans' thinking. We always throw these, and let's face it, it is a humanitarian crisis. We are going to show real compassion, but I would argue true compassion needs to be shown toward those children whose parents haven't sent them on that dangerous journey yet. We really need to think about that, and we need to eliminate the incentives for parents to make that heart-wrenching decision to send their kids here, because the signal's got to be send them up here, have them be in that very dangerous journey, but it's not worth the risk because they'll come right back to Honduras or El Salvador or Guatemala.
How much of a difference do you believe, or what kind of a message would it have sent if the president went down to the border, which he's refused to do, obviously, and stood there with the, either outside of where these kids are housed or inside where they're housed, and gave that message to the parents? Don't send your kids here because they're going to wind up like this, and we're going to eventually send them back. Do not do it. Would that have been a powerful message, do you believe?
I think it would have been helpful, but there's no better signal than to actually have a few plain folks.
Oh, no, I agree with you. I agree with you.
That is the number one. In our hearing, they had a poster. A poster with some words on it, like that was going to stem the tide. And then of course, the administration is saying they're going to spend $295 million to improve the conditions so you don't have the push factor. I mean, we can't improve our own economy under this administration. Do you think we're really going to alleviate the suffering and the violence by spending $290 million? If we're going to spend money, let's spend it on the immigration services for those home countries so that we know we're returning those children to a safe environment. I'll be happy to spend money that way, but again, we have to direct the money toward eliminating the incentive for those parents to send their kids on this dangerous trip.
All right, couldn't agree with you more, but I found out today, if I'm hearing correctly, that both Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid are against revisiting the law that the Bush signed, which was targeted towards people who are trafficking children. The intent of that law, as you well know, was not how it's being used now, and that's to say, well, because of the Bush law, we have to keep these kids here. We can't send them back. So do you see any prospect for that law being changed, or any prospect under any other circumstances for sending them back the way you want to?
Not with Harry Reid as the majority leader here in the Senate, apparently. I mean, the Democrats don't really want to fix the problem. They want to have it as an issue. So, back when that bill was passed through by unanimous consent within 24 hours, I don't think anybody in either Senate or House probably even saw that bill, except for a few people. Just went, rushing through Congress. Back then, there were about 7,000 children every year that people were concerned about in terms of human trafficking. Well, Steve, now we got 57,000 is the latest figure just from this fiscal year. We're actually promoting human trafficking. A law designed to prevent it, to handle it humanely, is actually incentivizing human trafficking to the tune of 57,000 kids to date. I mean, isn't that what it is? Parents are paying the most evil people in the world,
to take
these human traffickers, to profit off of their children.
Yeah, and now we got a train that's broken down with 1,300 refugees on it in Mexico. The whole thing's a disaster. All right, let me switch, and your lawsuit against Obamacare. Give us an update on that, sir.
Well, we had oral arguments. The judge asked for oral arguments, so I'm very encouraged by the serious nature that the judge is considering our case. He accepted 2 amicus briefs. 45 of my House colleagues or Senate colleagues, Republican colleagues, joined in or signed a letter in support of our lawsuit. And so, I'm encouraged by it. The hearing was on the standing issue, which is that first hurdle. It's really the hoop we have to go through. This the legal technicality, that this administration wants to knock our lawsuit out of the system because they don't want to argue the merits because they have no defense for what President Obama did. So hopefully the judge said he'll rule on this in short order. Hopefully he'll grant us standing so we can actually have our day in court and just highlight just one of these abuse of power issues that President Obama is engaged in terms of unilateral governance.
Let me ask you about Sergeant Tamarisi. He had a court date in Mexico yesterday, and they ordered him back to prison. He had hoped, at least through his mother, he relayed that he had hoped he would be let out of prison yesterday. Is the administration doing enough to get this man out? I mean, for crying out loud, Mexico is an ally.
I raised the sergeant in our Homeland Security hearing yesterday, and the gentleman from the State Department said, "Oh, they're they're working vigorously on it. And I just ask, I mean, are you as outraged as I am, as the American people are, in terms of Mexico's treatment here? Is the president outraged? And it was the old bureaucratic razzmatazz. And my final statement was let's hope he gets released. He was actually, I think, in front of the court during the hearing.
Right.
I said, if he's not released, let's hope that the administration does address this vigorously, expresses the outrage, demands action from the Mexican government. This is an outrage, and we need to apply every ounce of pressure as we possibly can on the Mexican government to release Sergeant Tamarisi. One
more real quick. Hamas bombing Israel retaliating as any country would do, the administration actually expressing support for that. When will this administration break ties with the Palestinian Authority's unity government, which includes Hamas?
When they leave office. Steve, I don't even know where to begin with this president's failure in terms of foreign policy. He actually has a strategy. It's one of withdrawal. It's one of apologizing for America. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked. He has, his huge historic blunder in not leaving a stabilizing force behind in Iraq to consolidate those hard-won gains. Almost 4,500 Americans died, 32,000 injuries. We spent $850 billion. And President Obama came to office, and Iraq was largely stable with a historic opportunity for success. Right. President Obama squandered that. He's squandering opportunities around the world, and we're seeing the results of it.
All right, Senator, thank you for your time, sir, very much. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. Senator Ron Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. And we will come back and discuss more of this on the Malzberg panel. And you're not going to want to miss it. We're going to have Kevin Jackson speaking to us from the right side on the panel, and we're going to have criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson speaking to us on the left side. So it's always exciting. Never a dull moment on the Malzberg panel. It's all right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television.